brain is the most powerful weapon you will ever carry. Not your talent, not your background, not your circumstances, not your phone, not your money, not your connections, your mind. Because when life gets dark, when life gets heavy, when life stops being motivational quotes and social media clips and all the surface level noise people hide behind, it always comes back to one place. It comes back to you. It comes back to the conversation happening in your own head when nobody is around to save you. That's the real battlefield. When you're going through pain, when you're dealing with depression, when you're facing loss, when you're buried in fear, when you're tired, embarrassed, ashamed, broken, and alone, that's when your mind starts speaking the loudest. And if you haven't trained it, if you haven't disciplined it, if you haven't put it through suffering and taught it who's in charge, then it will own you. It will tell you to stop. It will tell you to sit down. It will tell you to hide. It will tell you to blame other people. It will tell you to go back to what's comfortable. It will tell you that you're done. And most people listen. That's why most people stay exactly where they are. They don't lose in life because they aren't smart enough. They lose because they let their own mind become their master. They let it steer them wherever fear wants to go. They let it build a prison out of excuses, insecurity, weakness, and old stories. If you don't tell your mind where you're going, it will always lead you back to safety. And safety does not build greatness. You have to take control of that voice. You have to become stronger than the part of you that wants comfort. You have to learn how to look at pain without flinching. You have to become the kind of person who can sit in suffering and still say, "We are moving forward." That's not natural for most people. What's natural is to run. What's natural is to quit when it gets hard. What's natural is to tell yourself a story that protects your ego. What's natural is to say, "I tried." But there is a difference between trying and being fully committed. Your mind knows the difference. That's the thing people don't want to hear. Your mind knows when you're lying. It knows when you say you want something, but deep down you've already given yourself a back door. It knows when your standards sound tough, but your actions are soft. It knows when you're playing the role of a disciplined person instead of actually being one. You can fool other people. You can fool your friends. You can fool your family. You can fool social media. You cannot fool your own mind. That's why transformation starts with truth. It starts with getting honest about how weak you've allowed yourself to become, how much comfort has owned you, how many excuses you've made, how many times you've said later, how many times you've talked instead of worked, how many times you've demanded results you didn't earn. That truth hurts, but that pain is necessary, because once you finally face yourself, then the work can begin. And for me, and for anybody who actually changes, the work always comes down to one thing first: hard work. Not motivation, not inspiration, not some magical morning routine, not waiting for the perfect mood. Work. When I didn't understand something, I had to go back. When I couldn't remember something, I had to go back. When I failed, I had to go back. When I was behind, I had to go back. When I was embarrassed, I had to go back. When I looked weak, I had to go back. Again, again, again. That's what people don't understand about growth. Growth is not this clean little process where you get inspired, make a plan, and suddenly become somebody new. Growth is ugly. Growth is repetitive. Growth is humiliating. Growth is doing the same hard thing over and over again until your mind finally stops resisting and starts adapting. At first, your mind fights you. It says, "This is too much." It says, "This is unfair." It says, "This is miserable." It says, "Maybe we're not built for this." It says, "Maybe this isn't for us." It says, "Maybe we should lower the standard." That's when most people stop. But if you keep going back, if you keep showing your mind that quitting is not available, that excuses are not accepted, that weakness does not get a vote, something starts to change. Your mind begins to realize this is not a game. It begins to understand that you are not negotiating. It begins to see that no matter how uncomfortable it gets, no matter how many times it complains, no matter how hard the process is, you are still coming back. And when your mind realizes you are not stopping, it starts to adapt. That's when a new version of you begins to form, not because things got easier, because you got harder. People always want to know how someone survives extreme difficulty, how somebody keeps going when their body hurts, when their spirit is tired, when failure keeps showing up, when they've been beaten down again and again and again. The answer is not always talent. A lot of the time, it's identity. It's what you decide is normal. Most people break because they still believe suffering is an interruption. They think pain is a sign to stop. They think difficulty means something is wrong. They think being uncomfortable means they need relief. But the moment you accept that hardship is part of the path, your whole life changes. When pain becomes expected, it loses some of its power. When difficulty becomes normal, your panic starts to disappear. When suffering becomes part of the daily standard, your mind stops sounding the alarm every time life gets hard. That's how you build someone dangerous. You stop treating struggle like an emergency. You start treating it like the assignment. This is what we do now. This is how we live now. This is the price now. This is the new normal now. And once your mind accepts that, it starts to toughen up. People look at toughness the wrong way. They think it's screaming. They think it's aggression. They think it's acting fearless. They think it's some big performance. No, real toughness is quiet. Real toughness is getting up when nothing in you wants to move. Real toughness is sticking to the standard when nobody is watching. Real toughness is going back into the fire after life already burned you. Real toughness is discipline without applause. That kind of toughness isn't built in comfort. It's built in repetition. It's built in isolation. It's built in pain. It's built in accountability. It's built when there's no audience and no reward, except the knowledge that you did not betray yourself today. And that's the part people run from the most: accountability. Accountability sounds simple until it's personal. Everybody likes the idea of being better. Very few people like the process required to become better, because the process demands that you stop lying to yourself. It demands that you stop blaming your parents, your childhood, your bad luck, your boss, your ex, your genetics, your fear, your anxiety, your circumstances. Not because those things aren't real, but because none of them can be allowed to own the rest of your life. At some point, the question becomes simple. What are you going to do now? Not what happened to you, not what should have happened, not what would have been fair. What are you going to do now? That question hits different because now you are responsible. And responsibility is heavy. It hurts to be responsible. It hurts to wake up and realize nobody is coming to rescue you. It hurts to look in the mirror and know the gap between who you are and who you could be is mostly built by your own decisions. It hurts to stop hiding, but that pain is powerful. Because the moment you truly accept responsibility, you also reclaim power. Now you can build. Now you can work. Now you can transform. A lot of people think they're already giving everything they have. That's one of the biggest lies the human mind tells. Most people have not even scratched the surface of what they're capable of. They hit discomfort and call it their limit. They hit fear and call it their limit. They hit embarrassment and call it their limit. They hit fatigue and call it their limit. They hit one failure, two failures, three failures, and decide they've seen enough. No, you haven't seen enough. You've seen the beginning of resistance. That's all. There is a whole other world on the other side of that resistance, but most people never go there because they think pain means stop. They think doubt means stop. They think not being naturally good means stop. They think feeling broken means stop. Sometimes feeling broken is exactly where the real work starts. Because when everything comfortable gets stripped away, then you find out what's actually in you. Not the polished version, not the acceptable version, not the version built to impress people. The raw version, the unfinished version, the hungry version, the version that has to decide whether it's going to collapse or evolve. That's why suffering can be such a powerful teacher. Not because pain is glamorous, not because struggle is fun, not because misery should be worshipped, but because suffering exposes the truth. It strips the fake layers off. It removes the performance. It shows you your habits, your weaknesses, your fears, your coping mechanisms, your excuses, your real character. And once that truth is exposed, you have a choice. You can run from it, or you can start building. The building process is not pretty. It's waking up with doubt and moving anyway. It's carrying fear and moving anyway. It's failing publicly and coming back anyway. It's being behind and refusing to stay behind. It's being wounded and still choosing discipline. It's feeling overwhelmed and still doing the work in front of you. People want to feel invincible before they act. That's not how it works. You act first. You suffer first. You build first. Then one day, after enough repetitions, after enough proof, after enough nights when you kept going, despite everything in your head begging you to stop, you start to feel something different. You start to feel capable. Not because someone told you that you were special, because you have receipts now. You know what you can survive. You know what you can push through. You know what you can endure. And that knowledge changes everything. When you know deep in your bones that you can function in pain, think in chaos, move under pressure, and hold the line when life gets ugly, you walk differently. Not arrogantly, solidly. Because now your confidence isn't based on hype. It's based on evidence. You've been through enough hell to know you're not as fragile as you once believed. That's real confidence. And it's rare. Because most people would rather protect their feelings than test their limits. They would rather stay comfortable and tell themselves they're doing their best than find out what their best actually looks like. That's the tragedy. The greatest tragedy is not that people fail. The greatest tragedy is that they live entire lives beneath their potential because they never had the courage to demand more from themselves. They never pushed long enough. They never stayed in the fire long enough. They never got brutally honest long enough. They never made suffering part of the process long enough. So they never met the strongest version of who they could have become. And then they wonder why they feel empty. You don't find deep pride in comfort. You don't find deep peace in hiding. You don't find self-respect in convenience. You find those things after the struggle. You find those things after you've had to fight yourself. That's another truth people don't like. Peace usually comes later. Everybody wants peace first. Everybody wants calm first. Everybody wants healing first. Everybody wants balance first. But a lot of the time, peace comes after confrontation. After you confront your weakness. After you confront your habits. After you confront your laziness. After you confront your fear. After you confront the reality of what you've allowed yourself to become. Then the rebuilding begins. Then the peace starts to form. Because now you're no longer at war with the truth. Now you are aligned with it. Now your actions are matching your standards. Now you're becoming someone you can respect. And that matters more than almost anything. Because you can fool the world and still hate yourself. A lot of people get applause and still feel empty. A lot of people get approval and still feel ashamed. A lot of people are loved by others and still don't love the person they see in the mirror. Why? Because deep down, they know. They know when they're cutting corners. They know when they're running from hard things. They know when they're choosing comfort over growth. They know when they're living beneath what they could be. And that inner disappointment is heavy. You can feel it every day. The only real way to get rid of that weight is through earned self-respect. And self-respect is earned in the dark. It's earned when you keep promises to yourself. It's earned when you do what you said you would do. It's earned when you train your mind not to fold every time life applies pressure. It's earned when you stop asking if it's hard and start asking if it's necessary. That shift changes a person because life is always going to be hard. There is always going to be pain. There is always going to be uncertainty. There is always going to be doubt. There is always going to be loss. There is always going to be moments when your mind starts turning against you. So the question is never, how do I avoid all struggle? The question is, how do I become somebody who can carry it? That's the mission. Become somebody who can carry it, carry responsibility, carry discipline, carry pain, carry failure, carry pressure, carry loneliness, carry uncertainty, and still move. That's the person you have to become. Not a perfect person, a strong one, a trained one, a truthful one, a disciplined one. A person whose mind understands that no matter what happens, no matter how ugly the road gets, quitting is not the language spoken here. That mentality takes time to build. You don't build it in one speech. You don't build it in one workout. You don't build it in one good week. You build it by returning. Return when it's hard. Return when you're embarrassed. Return when you fail. Return when you're doubting yourself. Return when you're injured in spirit. Return when nothing feels inspirational. Return. Because every return sends a message to your mind. We do not break here. We adapt here. We learn here. We suffer here. We grow here. That's how you reprogram yourself. Not by wishing, not by waiting, not by dreaming, by doing. Again and again until your old mind no longer recognizes the person you've become. And one day, after enough days like that, you'll wake up and realize something powerful. The things that used to break you now train you. The things that used to scare you now sharpen you. The things that used to make you quit now make you stronger. That's when your suffering starts to mean something. That's when the pain has produced value. That's when your scars become proof. Not proof that life was unfair. Proof that you stayed in the fight. And if you can stay in the fight long enough, honestly enough, intensely enough, you will discover something most people never find. You are capable of far more than you think. Far more pain, far more discipline, far more growth, far more resilience, far more greatness. But it does not reveal itself to the curious. It reveals itself to the committed. So if you really want a different life, stop waiting for the perfect feeling. Stop waiting for confidence. Stop waiting for clarity. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for peace to arrive before the work begins. The work is how you earn those things. Train your mind. Tell it where you're going. Remove the exits. Make struggle part of the path. Tell the truth. Hold the standard. Go back again and again and again and again until the weak voice in your head gets quieter, until discipline becomes natural, until suffering no longer shocks you, until your life becomes proof of what a human being can do when they stop negotiating with themselves. That's the path. Not easy, not clean, not comfortable, but real. And at the end of that road, you don't just find success, you find someone much more important. You find yourself. Please, 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 please do not make parts just one audio file give me.